They spent over 600 years building a single ship, masterpiece of alien technology, crafted with patience, built to outlast the stars. And then they looked toward Earth, and watched in stunned silence as humanity launched over 100 ships in 1 week. How did we do it? How did the youngest race in the galaxy, surpass civilizations that ruled the stars for millennia? The answer lies in what we build, how we think, and what we do when we're underestimated. But what came next, no one was ready for. Not even us. Asterisk. They spent 642 years building it. A single ship, a massive ark, meant to carry the last survivors of an ancient empire into the stars. They called it the Ship of Forever, But they had no idea what humanity had already done, because by the time their signal reached Earth, we had already built 112 ships, this month now. They're coming to see us to understand how we did the impossible, but they're not ready for the truth in what they discover. We'll change the galaxy forever. In the dying heart of a once great empire, the Varn gathered to celebrate. Their skies were black and cold, their suns had faded, their worlds were crumbling. But now, at last, their work was complete. Orbiting the remains of their capital world was the single most advanced piece of technology their species had ever created. The Ship of Forever, over 4 kilometers long, reinforced with star core plating, engines fueled by the last compressed heart of a neutron star. It was a masterpiece, a symbol of survival, of legacy, of patience. The Varn were proud, and they had reason to be. Generations had lived and died on scaffolding above its hull. Entire casts were born just to polish, weld, or refine a single system. The work had never stopped, not once. Even when their outer colonies fell to entropy, even when food became scarce, even when their homeworld cracked in half, the ship had to be completed. The last hope of a once mighty species, and now it was done. As the lights flickered across the ship's frame, the Varn Council activated the stellar beacon, a signal to the stars. To all intelligent life, a message of triumph, of warning, of legacy. The broadcast translated across thousands of languages, including the primitive codes used by younger species. It announced the survival of the Varn, the completion of the greatest vessel ever created. It invited others to look upon their works and understand true power, true endurance, true superiority. The signal raced across space, top, past dead systems, past long-forgotten outposts, until finally, it reached a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, and that's when everything went wrong. The signal was picked up by several human satellites. It was decoded within minutes, broadcast across news networks, uploaded to forums, shared by schoolchildren, commented on by meme pages. And within a single hour, humanity had moved on, but not before laughing, not out of mockery. Not because they thought the Varn were foolish, but because of one small detail mentioned in the message. The Varn had spent 6 centuries building one ship humanity had built, and launched 112 ships in the past 30 days. That wasn't boasting. That was public record across Earth's orbit and beyond. Massive construction rings were running 24/7, AI-managed yards, 3D printed hulls, engines, drives built from vacuum-mined elements. Ship could go from concept to warp ready in less than 3 days. Faster if you didn't care about comfort, even faster if you had military clearance. And while the Varn had been building their one shining ark, humanity had been expanding, colonizing, trading, connecting systems, building fleets not to escape but to go farther, to see more. Learned the Varn couldn't believe it. When the full human database was accessed by their probe systems, the information hit like a hammer. The Varn weren't looking at a young species anymore. They were looking at something worse, something faster, something dangerous. The council met in secret. Some were skeptical. Others demanded immediate action. Some called the humans liars, fabricators. But data didn't lie. Images didn't lie. Soon, ... one word began to rise above the others. Arrogance. They believed humanity had grown arrogant, that we were disrespecting tradition, that we were rushing where caution was needed, that we had cheated the process of greatness. To the Varn, mastery came from patience, from long effort, from sacrifice. The idea of building hundreds of ships in days wasn't just offensive. It was unnatural. The decision was made. Quietly, carefully, a diplomatic vessel would be sent. Not to greet, but to observe, to investigate, to understand how these humans had done what no one else could. 5 Varn agents were chosen, elite minds, ancient thinkers, their consciousness stored in crystalline nodes, bodies rebuilt for stealth and observation. They would arrive undetected, disguised, embedded in so. They came. The journey to Earth was not short, not with Varn technology, but it was necessary. The agents moved quietly, slipped through customs, registered as visiting researchers. Within days, they stood among us. What they saw, terrified. Mirth was chaos, but beautiful chaos. The cities were crowded, the skies full of ships. There was no single leader, no grand plan. But still, everything moved, everything worked. Children studied dark matter drives in classrooms. Teenagers built launch-capable drones for sport. Tired engineers hosted open live streams where they designed deep space freighters in real time. The culture wasn't restrained by tradition. It was fueled by curiosity, collaboration, competition. One Varn observer watched a group of students design an engine component better than anything found on the ship of Forever. In under 40 minutes, another discovered a mobile app that let you build a ship's full wiring system in VR. Order the parts delivered within a day. The Varn didn't understand it. Not at first. They had spent centuries perfecting every system, every connection, every weld. Could this species move so fast? And then came the final blow. The humans weren't slowing down. New projects were being launched every hour. New designs being uploaded, new challenges issued. One orbital station, nicknamed the Hive, produced 7 ships in a single rotation. It's automated, efficient, unstoppable. One Varn whispered, "They don't build for survival. They build because they love it." That was the moment the fear truly sank in, because now the Varn understood humanity wasn't trying to compete with them. They had never even noticed the competition. We weren't escaping a dying galaxy. We were claiming we were already too far ahead. The Varn had spent centuries building one ship. Humanity had built an empire of stars in the same time. The question that began to echo in every Varn mind was no longer how did they do it? It was ... what are they going to do next? And more importantly, can anyone stop them? Because the galaxy just woke up to a new kind of power. And it wasn't ancient it, wasn't patient it, wasn't slow. It was human, and it was already here. They came to Earth with hidden eyes and quiet thoughts cloaked in synthetic flesh, and minds sharpened by centuries of silent study. The 5 Varn agents spread across the cities of this strange, chaotic planet. They had been taught to expect noise and dirt and aggression, and yet what they found unsettled them far more than any of that. There was order in the chaos, not the kind they knew. There were no high councils, no caste systems, no rigid paths of purpose. Instead, people walked freely, laughed loudly, and worked with a hunger that made no sense. To the Varn, logic dictated that only desperation could drive a species to action. But the humans were not desperate, they were thriving, and still they pushed harder, still they built faster. Still they reached farther. One of the agents, a tall, thin being who now walked in the body of a middle-aged human man, stood at the edge of a massive shipyard in orbit around Earth. The place was alive with motion. Dozens of vessels in various stages of construction floated inside the rings, each built by swarms of automated drones and guided by human overseers on digital command decks. He watched as a teenager, barely into adulthood, adjusted the stabilizer output of a new freighter without Even looking at the manual, she simply knew what to do. Her fingers danced across the interface like she was playing a game, and the changes uploaded instantly to the fleet database for others to copy, improve, and launch within the hour on the ground. Another Varn agent walked through a campus where students studied things the Varn had once guarded as forbidden knowledge. A boy and a girl argued about quantum anchor fields, while a third offered a better solution using a new kind of superconductor. Grown in a laboratory just last week in Varn culture, this conversation would be considered a sacred council discussion. Here it was, lunch break everywhere. They looked. The agents saw humans building not just ships or tools, but entire systems of progress. Their designs were messy, their methods imprecise by Varn standards, and yet the results were undeniable. They worked, and they worked fast. The agents tried to gather control of their mission. They began compiling data to send back to the Dominion, but the deeper they looked, the more afraid they became, because the numbers made no sense. Humanity's ship production rate exceeded their own projections by a factor of 10. In just the last 3 months, their deep space reach had expanded into zones the Varn considered inaccessible, and their collaboration with other species now included trade tech and even defense platforms. Built entirely on human generosity, this was not a species preparing for escape. They were expanding, claiming lost systems, rebuilding broken colonies, helping younger species stand again, and they were doing it not for conquest, not for power, but because they could one. Agent followed a crew of humans aboard a cargo ship bound for a distant moon colony. He has watched how they laughed during takeoff, how they solved a system error mid-flight without consulting any superiors, how one of them rewired a critical engine component. Using a spare cable and a tool printed during lunch, the humans treated the universe like a challenge, not a threat. And that terrified the Varn more than any weapon back in the Varn Dominion. Such actions would require approvals, rituals, months of delay here. The crew made decisions in seconds, with trust and instinct forged by shared purpose, no chain of command, just a common goal to keep building, to keep moving forward. Another Varn agent infiltrated a private corporation known for manufacturing small scout ships. He was given access to the production floor, posing as a visiting scholar. What he saw there made his crystalline core vibrate in disbelief. Fully automated construction arms, assembling entire ships in 48 hours. AI overseeing every step, humans only stepping in to tweak, improve, accelerate. And then shipping the vessels across the system using quantum-linked routes, mapped just last year by students fresh out of university. He found a database entry describing a project that started as a simple idea shared in a public forum, and now powered half the orbital stations around Saturn, an idea built upon by strangers, improved by rivals, completed by friends, all without profit or ownership. Just a shared desire to build something better and share it with anyone who needed it. The agents met in secret every evening using hidden channels and old encryption. They no longer trusted the data alone. They needed to speak, and what they said each night grew darker than the one before. The humans are out of control. One said, they are unbound. They don't respect tradition. Another added, they innovate without purpose. They are dangerous, whispered a third. They could destroy the balance of the stars. But the eldest among them, the one who had lived longest in both Varn form and this borrowed human skin, said something different. They are not dangerous because they destroy. They are dangerous because they create that. Sentence silenced the others for a moment long and still, and then the youngest of them asked the question they all feared. What happens when the humans build something even they cannot control? That night, they tried to send a report back to the Dominion, a warning, a plea, but the signal was delayed, intercepted, rerouted. A message bounced back from their own deep relay claiming unexpected interference, which none of them believed because they had seen enough of human systems to know the truth. Someone was watching them, not a government, not a military, not even a single agency, but the humans as a whole, their network of eyes and ears. Their linked systems and fast AI, their curious nature, had already exposed the Varn presence, not as enemies, but as anomalies to be studied, invited, observed, even welcomed. One of the agents received an invitation to a public engineering competition. After posting a comment on a tech forum, another was offered a position at a Mars-based lab. just for asking the right question in a digital conference. The humans were not just fast, they were inclusive, open, eager to share not just their technology, but their entire process that more than anything broke the Varn spirit because it meant there would be no way to stop them, no way to contain them. They were not spreading like a plague, they were spreading like light unstoppable because they wanted to be shared one day, just before the agents planned their extraction. One of them was approached by a young girl at a spaceport. She smiled and handed him a small chip and said she heard he was new too.
A war Earth.
And thought he might like it when he asked. What it was, she just said, open source Starship Design version 17. It's faster now, and walked away without waiting for thanks. The agent returned to the others and gave them the chip. They scanned it together, and what they found was madness. A complete ship blueprint, ready to be built, with parts available in nearly any system designed by someone. Barely older than a child, optimized using thousands of community contributions, faster, smaller, tougher than the Varn's best. Courier ships and free for anyone to use that night. They stopped trying to send warnings. They knew it was too late. They knew that Dominion would never believe them until it saw for itself. They left Earth quiet and shaken, each carrying not just data, but fear not because humanity had weapons or power or even ambition, but because humanity had found something more powerful than all those things. Combined purpose, and they would not stop, not today, not ever. And what scared the Varn more than anything else was the thought that maybe, just maybe, they shouldn't be stopped at all. The message was short, just one line uploaded to the public net with no name and no source. Anyone could have missed it, anyone could have scrolled past it. But someone clicked, and then someone else, and within the hour it had spread across the planet. Across the orbital networks and far beyond, blueprints for a full interstellar scout ship, clean, readable, tested, compatible with nearly every fabrication system on Earth, and off-world and completely free. There was no payment link, no registration, no credit. It simply said, build and go. The file was small, but the impact was not. Within the first 6 hours, thousands had downloaded it. Within 12, the first garage-built version had already launched from a private pad in the Australian outback. And within 24 hours, the number of ships in Earth's orbit had increased by nearly 10%. The Varn agents watching from their hidden station above Jupiter were in disbelief. They had seen human efficiency, they had witnessed their chaotic brilliance, but this was different. This was something else entirely. This was culture becoming motion, idea becoming reality. Without the need for hierarchy or command, they tracked the spread of the file through public networks into education systems, into corporate databases, into hobbyist groups, military circles, and even interplanetary stations. No firewalls stopped it, no rules slowed it. Everyone wanted to see it, understand it, build it, improve it, improve it. And that was where it truly began to change, because humans did not just copy the blueprint, they improved it. Someone added a new stabilizer layout that increased atmospheric entry control by 20%. Someone else modified the fuel core to use a rare but cleaner isotope available. On Martian refineries, a third person created a new internal layout, more comfortable, more flexible, and then someone else optimized it. Again, every change was shared. Every update reposted. The blueprint grew into branches and then into entire forests of designs, each better, faster, more focused for a task someone somewhere needed to solve, and humanity kept building. One orbiting factory on Luna went from producing small cargo drones to full scout ships in less than 3 days. Another on Titan launched a fleet of modular haulers based on the same design, only bigger, tougher, and ready for deep space freight. Original blueprint became legend versioned and revered, not because it was perfect, but because it had opened a door no one could close. It had unlocked something powerful, not just in technology, but in people. The idea that anyone with the will to learn and access to basic tools could build a ship and launch into space was no longer a dream, it was a morning project back on Earth. A young boy, barely 12 years old, used the blueprint to design a hybrid skimmer for oceanic research. His school launched it 2 weeks later from an offshore platform with full media coverage, and the child received offers from a dozen institutions. By the end of the day on Mars, a retired mechanic with no formal education added a propulsion fix that solved a thermal expansion issue across Most designs saving builders millions in repair costs overnight. These were not engineers. These were not scientists. These were people who had been given the chance to reach the stars and simply chose to do it the. Varn watched with growing fear and growing awe. Their own systems would have collapsed under this kind of speed their culture demanded. Control regulation ceremony, nothing was shared without review and approval, and even then, only after decades of testing, but humanity thrived on motion hand. Now the Varn saw something else happening. The blueprint was not just spreading on Earth. It was being sent to other species as well. A small aquatic civilization on a distant moon received a version optimized for underwater launch. Another rocky world society received a compact design meant for vertical cliffside launch pads, even primitive. Societies with basic industry received printable models scaled to their level of technology, and all of it came with notes. Guidance shared improvements and invites to contribute. The Varn's worst fear was now alive. Humanity was not just building ships, they were teaching others to build with them. The stars were not becoming human territory. They were becoming human shared space. The Varn had spent centuries managing their alliances, carefully weighing every new contact, guarding secrets jealously. And now, within months, the humans had turned strangers into partners. A dozen species now flew ships based on human designs. Some modified, some improved, some built in ways even the original creators had not imagined, and each one returned to Earth. With more data, more insight, more curiosity, and the humans welcomed them because humans were not afraid of change. They invited it. They drank it, they ran toward it at full speed, and laughed when it broke things because they knew they could rebuild them stronger, faster, better. The Varn held an emergency council not back in their home system, but inside their hidden ship, watching from the shadows of Jupiter, and the discussion was not about stopping humanity anymore. It was about survival, because for the first time the Varn understood what was happening. The old ways were ending, not with fire or war, but with an open file and a line of code. Agents argued, some demanded intervention, others proposed sabotage. One even suggested trying to claim credit for the original blueprint and flood the network with false versions, but it was already too late. The design was open now, woven into a million systems, replicated and copied beyond counting even. If every Varn ship in the galaxy launched an attack that very moment, they could not erase what had been shared. The only option left was to observe and maybe to learn, because if they did not evolve, they would be left behind. The humans were not malicious, they were not conquerors. They simply did not wait in. When someone does not wait, you cannot catch them. You can only fall further behind. Meanwhile, Earth celebrated. The blueprint was being called the fire starter, the spark, the ignition moment of the new age. And for many, it was exactly that. New universities formed around it, study new industries. Reborn colonies began to grow beyond even the ambitious reach of the original expansion plans. For some, it was not about power or fame or history. For some, it was simply about the stars. One girl, a shipbuilder on a small asteroid colony, wrote a single message on the side of her first completed vessel before she launched it into the unknown. It said, "I built this because I wanted to see what was out there." The message was found weeks later by a Varn recon drone drifting in deep space, returned the data to the council, and they read it in silence because they knew then what they were truly facing: not an enemy but a movement hand. The galaxy would never be the same again. The stars went quiet, and no one knew why at first. There were no warnings, no sudden battles, no cries for help, only silence, a strange, heavy silence that spread across the outer systems like a cold wind. Every listening post, every deep relay station, every orbital array across Varn space and human territory began to report the same thing: loss of contact. No signals, no transmissions from entire sectors that once buzzed with life. Varn Council gathered in secret again, their ancient minds heavy with worry. Something was happening, something they did not understand, and that fear began to grow quickly, because silence in space was never good. It was never peaceful. It always meant something had gone wrong. But on Earth, humanity was not worried. They were busy, too busy to notice the silence, too busy building, too busy launching, too busy connecting, because the blueprint movement had evolved into something far greater than anyone had expected. Earth's orbit was now crowded with new vessels. Not just scout ships or freighters, but experimental designs, prototypes, massive structures that humans had started calling the Seed Fleet. A growing armada of modular ships meant to explore, restore, and protect entire systems, but not for war for recovery. Silence in the Stars did not come from human fear or Varn control. It came from the humans. Moving into forgotten places quietly, quickly, without fanfare or announcement, they had reached the broken edges of the galaxy and started working on them. While others argued or hesitated, humanity built, and they built without asking for. Permission, entire human-built fleets had started to enter dead zones where ancient wars had left systems in ruins. They reactivated power grids, cleaned radiation. Fields rebuilt stations and installed fresh relay beacons, and they did it fast, so fast that even other advanced species could not believe it. When they heard the new signals go livened, yet the Varn watched all this and saw only invasion they could. Not understand why humans would waste time and energy helping dead systems and lost colonies without demanding tribute or territory. They saw it as reckless expansion, not mercy. Then came the breaking point. The Varn detected more than 600 human ships crossing into what they called protected zones, places they considered sacred or strategically vital. No message had been sent. No request made, just a massive organized movement of ships into silent space. To the Varn, it was a direct challenge. To the humans, it was a mission to restore and connect the final broken corners of the galaxy. The fleets moved fast, too fast they did not act. Like military formations, they behaved more like teams of engineers and medics and builders every ship carried. Specialists and tools and drone teams and terraforming modules, even food stations and mobile hospitals, every system they entered, they did not conquer, they fixed, and in return, the silent systems began to respond with signals of life and thanks, and cooperation that confused the Varn more than anything else, because those who received the humans did not resist, they welcomed them, those who had been abandoned long ago. By the old empires now found new allies in these strange, fast-moving creatures. Called humans, the Varn leadership fell into chaos half the council wanted to confront. Earth demanded an explanation, or declare war, the other half still remembered. What had happened with the blueprint and feared open conflict would lead to humiliation. Or worse, defeat. The silence in the stars was no longer a mystery. It was a message, not spoken, but shown, a message that humanity had already passed the others and was now reaching for something, even the oldest. Civilizations had never managed a unified galaxy, not ruled, not owned, but built together. Earth's open signal beacon repeated one simple line. Every 20 minutes across thousands of frequencies, all species welcome, all help accepted. No empires, no borders, just solutions to some, it sounded like. Hope to others. Like Revolution 1's small Varn science team was sent to observe a frontier zone reclaimed by humans. They expected disorder, they expected chaos, but what they saw was a fully functioning power grid restored in 3 days atmospheric. Filters installed by orbital drones and local civilians trained by humans, now maintaining systems with better results than Varn specialists ever had. The team reported back saying the humans were turning broken planets into homes faster than the Varna could hold meetings. That report was classified immediately, and the science team was recalled in silence, but rumors spread as they always do. And soon, species that had stayed neutral began asking questions, began sending representatives to Earth, to the orbital stations, to the new human-led outposts, and what they found was a movement. Too big to stop, because humanity was not just restoring systems, they were giving away the tools to keep them running, giving away blueprints, giving away training, and software, and full access to automated construction networks. Anyone with the will to help could join, and thousands did, and then millions. The silence in the stars was gone, replaced with a new sound, not of war or fear, but of rebuilding. And yet, not everyone welcomed this new age. Some powers still saw it as a threat. Some empires, old and proud, refused to believe that humans meant peace, and those empires began to prepare in the shadows, not for diplomacy, but for confrontation. They did not see what humanity had truly become, not a nation, not a fleet, but a force of creation, a force of motion and momentum that could not be bribed or tricked or intimidated, because humans were not trying to win. They were trying to fix everything in. You cannot stop those who only want to help. One Varn admiral stood before her private command table watching the data flow in. She saw the ships, the numbers, the expansion, the rising network of allied systems, and for a long time she said nothing. Then she turned to her aides and whispered a line none of them forgot. Spent 600 years building one perfect ship, and they built 600 imperfect ships that saved 600 broken worlds in half. The time we sat in darkness thinking. The stars were fading, and they lit them again without asking for permission or thanks. And then she added the line that would be repeated, across Varn history for generations. We are no longer the center of the galaxy they are in. They are not slowing. Down back on Earth, a child watched a ship launch from the mountains near her home. Her parents had helped build it, the neighbors too. It was bound for a system. No one had visited in centuries to bring power and water and medicine to those still. Living there in the cold, the girl waved and whispered good luck in that night. As she fell asleep, the stars above her pulsed with life, not human life, not Varn life, but something new shared life, and the silence never returned again. The Varn outpost was not important, at least not anymore. It had once been a proud station. Built to watch over a small system filled with gas giants and frozen moons long ago, it had served as a military checkpoint, a symbol of the Dominion's reach. But that was before the collapse, before the outer colonies fell silent, and the galaxy began to forget the Varn. We're still watching, still listening, still guarding the edges of a shrinking empire. The station floated alone, its hull worn, and its systems slow. The crew spent most of their time in silence, watching empty space, and remembering better days. They did not expect visitors. They did not expect trouble. They especially did not expect war, but it came anyway. It started with a ping. One of the sensor operators, barely awake, saw a faint signal coming in from the outer rim of the system. He leaned forward, checked it again, and then again. The signal was Varn, but the signature was wrong. Not from any known fleet, not from any Dominion registry. It was sharp, new, and fast-moving. The operator called his commander, and within minutes, the station was fully awake. Alarms sounded, drones launched, and defensive grids powered up. Then the signal became to then 10, then 20, soon over 30 ships entered the system, all with Varn signatures, but none answering the standard calls, none identifying themselves correctly, and worst of all, they were heading straight for the station in formation, tight and fast like a strike force. The commander sent out a warning to Central Command, then ordered weapons armed. No one knew who these ships belonged to, but their intentions were clear, and the station would not fall without a fight. But the ships did not fire. They stopped just outside the defense perimeter. Then one of them opened a channel. The image that appeared on the screen shocked everyone. The face was Varn, but younger, sharper, wearing armor the Dominion had never approved. The voice was calm, cold, but laced with pride. We are the free Varn, the voice said. We are no longer part of the Dominion, and we do not answer to those who let our people fall. We answer to ourselves, and today we take what was left to rot. Before the commander could reply, the attack began, fast, precise, coordinated. The weapons used were unfamiliar, enhanced, modified beyond anything the outpost had seen before. Their own defenses collapsed within minutes as boarding parties cut through the hull with tools to advance. To counter, the crew fought back with desperation, but they were outmatched, outnumbered, and unprepared. In less than an hour, the station was under new control. The Free Varn raised their flag over the command deck and transmitted a message across all Varn channels claiming victory, claiming freedom, and warning the Dominion that more strikes would follow. The council on the homeworld erupted in panic. Who were these rebels? How had they built a fleet so fast? Where did they get the tech? How did they upgrade their weapons, their shields, their engines so quickly? And then the answer arrived, not in words, but in images captured from the wreckage of the battle. Human designs, human, code human, tech modified, but clear and unmistakable. The Free Varn had been using human-built ships, or at least ships based on human open-source models, retrofitted with Varn systems, but powered by human design principles. They were faster, more efficient, easier to build, and deadly in the right hands. The Dominion could not believe it. Humans had given away their blueprints freely. They had spread them across the stars. With no control, no limits, no safeguards. and now that generosity had turned into a weapon used against the very order that Varn had tried to protect some in the council. Demanded retaliation, others demanded isolation, but the question that stopped them all was simple: what if this is just the beginning? Because if the free, Varn could build a fleet, what about others? What about the exiled races, the scattered survivors? The fallen colonies, the forgotten systems now armed with tools to rise again. It was true the movement was growing everywhere. Old allies of the Varn who had been ignored during the decline now rebuilt their fleets, not to attack, but to stand. Tall again, former enemies now flew ships with Earth-made cores, scavengers turned explorers, miners turned captains, people who had no place in the old order now held power hand. Behind all of it was humanity, not forcing, just building, helping. Sharing, they had given away the keys to space, and now everyone was opening doors. The Varn could not stop them, not without starting a war. They could never win. So they tried diplomacy. They sent envoys to Earth, demanding explanations, but the humans only replied with data logs showing that none of the free Varn ships had been built on Earth, or with human approval. They had simply used the tools provided to everyone and made something new. The humans did not apologize. They simply said, "We gave them a choice and they made it." That answer did not calm the council. It divided them further, because some now saw the truth clearly. Humanity had changed the rules of power not through force but through access, and those who refused to adapt would fall behind or fall apart. Then came the message that changed everything again, from a human captain leading a fleet of restoration ships. Heading into another broken sector, the message was not a threat, it was not even a warning, it was a statement of belief. We are not here to conquer or rule, we are here to fix what others left behind. We build because others stopped building, we help because others forgot how, and we will not stop. Not for fear, not for anger, not for empires, the message went viral, translated into hundreds of languages, broadcast across systems. Entire worlds heard it and remembered what it meant to hope again. The Varn heard it too. They had built one ship, the ship of forever, over centuries with the belief that they could survive alone in a broken galaxy, and now they saw that survival alone was not enough. Not anymore, because humanity had shown them the way and the way and the way and way. Ruins of the old outpost now controlled by the free Varn. A group of engineers sat around a display screen examining the next blueprint update from Earth's, laughing, trading ideas, and planning their next launch. They were no longer waiting for the Dominion to save them. They had saved themselves in. They were not alone, because the galaxy was changing one ship at a time. Nothing could stop it now. Above the clouds of Jupiter, a storm unlike any other brewed, not of wind or thunder, but of machines and fear. The Varn had grown desperate. Their ancient pride wounded their authority, questioned their silence, broken across the stars. They saw their outposts fall one by one, not to armies, not to empires, but to builders, engineers, and helpers, carrying human blueprints and stubborn dreams. And now the council had made its choice. The time for patience was over. The Dominion would strike the target. It was simple yet symbolic. A human-built shipyard orbiting one of Jupiter's moons called Ganymede Station, for a place once silent and barren, now buzzing with activity. It was not just a factory, it was a message floating in plain view, not hidden. Not armed with fleets, but protected only by thin rings of defense drones and a steady stream of freighters. Launching by the hour, this was where human speed was made real, where salvaged parts from forgotten moons turned into ships in less than one. A week where blueprints flowed like water and ideas turned to hulls in days. The Varn sent a fleet, not massive, but enough, their oldest dreadnought at the front, still bearing scars from forgotten wars, flanked by fast cutters and support vessels, carrying enough firepower to burn the station from the sky. They did not send a warning. They believed no warning was needed. They assumed the humans would panic, retreat, beg for diplomacy, because surely even humans could not defend a station built from scrap with only drones for protection. They were wrong. As the fleet dropped into high orbit, sensors lit up across the human networks. The station did not go dark, it did not slow down. Instead, the opposite happened. The launch rate increased. Dozens of ships detached from the dry docks within minutes, but none fled instead. They moved into formation, not to attack, but to shield the station, pulling together in layers like scales of armor unmanned. Autonomous modular, the Varn fleet paused, confused. This was not protocol, this was not military, this was not war as they knew it, the dreadnought sent. A transmission demanding surrender silence answered for a moment, and then came a reply from a human. Voice calm, clear, and utterly unconcerned you. Are approaching a cooperative zone under the Open Fleet Initiative. Your aggression has been noted and recorded. Your options are retreat or explanation. The Varn replied with fire. The first salvo lit the darkness energy beams, searing toward the shipyard. Tearing through empty space where drones had been just seconds before, the defense net moved faster than expected, shifting and tight. Response lines redirecting their own beams to intercept and blind and delay. It was not elegant, it was not beautiful. It was relentless. And living then, the drones answered, not with weapons of destruction, but with tools repurposed for defense: magnetic pulses. High-density foam launchers, hard light projectors designed to protect construction crews, now used to disable Varn systems, without causing loss of life. It was not war, it was resistance, like a wall made of lightning and wire. Varn pressed harder their ships, pushing through, trying to reach the core of the station, but every step forward was met with another layer of improvisation. Hull fragments turned into kinetic blockers, scaffolding extended like claws, trapping and redirecting vessels. Small defense ships not built for combat, but running on swarm algorithms, surrounded the dreadnought and began cutting into its coms and engine ports with laser-guided precision. Then it happened. The dreadnought engines went silent, not from damage, but from override. Something had infiltrated its systems. Not a virus, not an attack, but a handshake, a line of code offered freely in the open, a systems optimizer developed by an open-source contributor in a Martian university, meant to improve fuel flow efficiency, and mistakenly uploaded to the shared network. Varn had downloaded it months ago, used it without understanding its origin, and now that same code had been used to disable their mightiest ship with a single signal, though. Human voice returned. We do not destroy, we repair. You are not enemies unless you choose to be, but this station is under our protection, and we will not allow destruction in the name of pride. The dreadnought floated powerless. The rest of the fleet hesitated, too afraid to fire, too confused to retreat. And then one by one they received signals, not threats, not ultimatums, but offers: repair assistance, medical aid, access to the shared design files for future upgrades, and a simple invitation to talk. The battle ended without a single death. The Varn ships were towed, repaired, and sent back with new reactors and faster engines than they arrived with, and each carried something else to a data pack containing the story of how the station had been built. How every ship had been made not by one mind, but by many, not for war, but for connection. The council received the report in silence. None dared to speak for hours, because they had seen the impossible: a fleet of ancient power defeated by tools and collaboration, by adaptability, by unity, by a force that did not seek to conquer but could not be stopped across the galaxy. The story spread faster than light. Worlds once afraid of human speed now looked to it with hope. Species once isolated now asked to join the network, not to kneel, but to contribute, and humanity welcomed them. All the Varn understood then that the war they feared was never coming, because it had already ended before it began, not with ships or weapons, but with the simple, unstoppable truth. The builders had arrived, and they were not going anywhere. There was a silence across the stars. Not the silence of fear or defeat, but the deep kind, the one that comes after understanding. The Varn stood on the edge of their great domed council hall, their eyes turned upward through the transparent ceiling as the stars moved slowly above them. Each one a world, a station, a shipyard, a memory of what they once ruled and what they had nearly lost for centuries. They had believed power came from patience, from perfection, from holding tight to knowledge and controlling its flow. But they had watched that belief shattered, not by war, but by something far stranger and more powerful: generosity they had seen with their own eyes. How humanity had flooded the stars with blueprints, not guarded behind encryption walls, but shared, openly spread, like seeds into fertile minds, and every seed had grown into something unique, something new, something unrecognizable and beautiful and terrifying. They could watch the free Varn rebel, not out of hatred, but out of hunger. Hunger to build, to move to. Matter again, they had seen machines rise, not for destruction, but for restoration ships. Born in days, not centuries, powered by collaboration, crafted by hands of a dozen worlds and minds that spoke in 100 languages, they had feared the fall of order, but now they stood in the beginning of something greater, not a dominion, not an empire, not even a federation, but a movement built on circuits and trust welded with hope, and launched by a species that refused to wait for permission. A delegation from Earth had arrived, not with weapons or ultimatums, but with simple requests, an invitation to speak, a set of open-source upgrades for the objective forever, and a question written in gentle human language: do you want to build with us? The Council looked at one another, not as rulers, not as relics, but as people tired of watching the galaxy from behind glass, and one by one, they nodded on. So the ship that had taken 642 years to build launched again, not alone this time, but as part of a fleet, its systems updated by human hands, its course plotted by a shared AI born from Varn code and Martian ingenuity, its halls filled with young minds, both Varn and human, and others too, each carrying tools, not weapons, and each carrying a vision. The vision was not of dominion or conquest or perfection. It was of motion, of light, of forward. A child aboard the ship asked her teacher one day how fast they would go, and the teacher smiled and answered, as fast as we are willing to learn. Far behind them, stars pulsed in quiet rhythm signals from old systems and new collaborations, forming messages sent and received, blueprints, updated stories, archives shared across millions of terminal stories of how things had been and how they were changing, and always how they could be better. One file in particular kept being downloaded again and again, not because of its technical value, but because of how it began and how it ended. Began with an old alien empire building a single ship over centuries, and it ended with hundreds flying together into a future no one could predict. Under that last line, written in bold, simple text, translated into every known language, was a phrase that meant it was done, but also that it had only just begun the end.